Exclusive Aces top 10 loadouts for multiplayer in Black Ops 6 right now. That's the name of this video, and without wasting any more time, it's your boy, the myth, the legend, the man with 3,000 hands, aka Ugly Boy 3000. I'll go ahead and have the original video linked down in the description below, so if you just want to watch the original video, then you can. Don't forget to hit that sub button, turn on the post notifications so you never miss a video, and drop a like. It puts us into the algorithm and it gets us one step closer to taking over the world. Exclusive Ace.
What's up, guys? My name is Ace, and today we're going to be
What's
revisiting
good,
my
Ace?
top 10 favorite setups
What
to
up,
use in
bruh?
Black Ops 6 right now. This is a video that many people have been asking for, and I've kind of just been putting it off and focusing on my gun guides, so I wanted to give you guys an update here with my personal top 10 list. And before we get into this list, just a couple things to point out. First off, like I said, this is my list. These are my favorite.
Yeah, this is his list, and if you want my list, I am daily streaming and daily ranking up every single gun. I only got about 3 more guns to rank up to max level, but I am doing road to mastery camo grind on my channel, where at the end of each weapon I end up ranking it up. I make a video on which attachments that I like best and which attachments that I like to use the most on each individual weapon, just like Exclusive Ace, but I provide a little bit of gameplay with it. You know what I'm saying? That's about the only difference. But let's get it. Enough of me talking. If you haven't watched the videos, go watch the videos. That's all I'm saying. My bad. Let's get back to Exclusive Aces video, because that's what you're here to see.
Guns at the
That's what
moment,
y'all
my
here to
favorite
see.
setups, and they're built the way that works with my intended playstyle, which means in many cases you're going to see very similar attachments on these. That's just simply because that's what works well for me. Now, if you disagree with anything on this list, that's totally fine. And I'd love to hear down below if there's a gun that you would have put on this list that didn't make it onto my list.
Exclusive Ace is
Also,
kind of
while
a
many of
rusher,
these setups
so
are exactly the same as what you saw in the gun guides for them, I have actually
he
adjusted.
plays like a hybrid style. I've watched Exclusive Ace play, and he plays like hybrid, so he does rush, but then when he gets into power position, yeah, he just plays a good Call of Duty game. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can
some
say.
of them over time. And with all of that out of the way, let's dive into this and start it off with number 10 on my list. This is the Tonto 22. And with this gun, I really find myself leaning toward the Gunfighter wildcard, so I'm going to be sharing my Gunfighter
Hey,
build
Gunfighter
today,
is
which
crazy.
is this one right here. And I'm not going to talk you through every one of the attachments like I do in my gun
That's the
guides.
loadout right
I
there, y'all.
just want to be sharing like why I like these guns, what I look for in them, and what kind of role they tend to fill for me. And in the case of the Tonto, especially with rapid fire, you get such a great time to kill potential that extends out to a very impressive range for SMGs.
Hey, the
as
Tonto-
well. It does have quite a bit of
The
climb.
Tonto is probably the second best SMG. Maybe it could go into the third best SMG, but it's probably the
to
second.
its recoil, even with a compensator on there because of rapid fire. But I find with the slower fire rate, it's actually quite easy to control that climb for the most part. I'm probably not going to be taking really long range gunfights with this unless I'm just feeling super confident that I've taken that enemy off guard. But in general, I really like the Tonto 22 for its power potential. However, it is also a very unforgiving gun compared to
Yeah, it
many of
shoots
the others,
slow.
and that's why it is fairly low on my list here, but I still feel it deserved a spot. As for number 9 on my list, we've got the AEK 973, and I just recently covered this in my gun guide series, which, by the way, if you guys have missed the gun guide series, I will leave a link to the playlist down below. I've now covered all of the assault rifles, SMGs, and marksman rifles in the game. But with the AEK, I decided to share my balanced accuracy build. I think this is my favorite out of all of them. And while, of course, this gun isn't nearly as dominant as it was when the game first came out, especially with rapid fire. Rapid fire was absolutely insane when the game first came out on this. I still do consider it to be a very solid and now quite underrated gun. I rarely see people using it. I think because of that nerf, many people just dropped it and kind of forgot about it, not realizing that it's still a very solid gun. And it's also just a nice change of pace as well, while still being quite competitive. If you can manage your one burst kill with this, you're going to be absolutely untouchable. But if you don't get the one burst kill, it is fairly unforgiving. That burst delay is quite long, and that's why, again, just like with the Tonto, I put it fairly low on my list. There's a lot of power potential there, but it's not going to be the most consistent and easy to use setup on my list. As for the next one on my list, this is the Model L. And I'll share my balanced stealth setup with you guys today, which you guys are going to be seeing a lot of balanced stealth setups because that quite simply suits my playstyle. I generally like getting right up in the enemy's face, get in toward their spawn, flank them as much as possible, shoot them in the back, shoot them in the side, and stay off that radar constantly. But with the Model L specifically, I just find this to be a very easy to use, easy to control gun. It's super, super accurate, especially for the initial shots fired. It's insanely easy to control that recoil. You can pick people off across the map, no problem with this. However, one of the downsides to this is it doesn't have an amazingly impressive time to kill potential.
Yeah, it doesn't kill fast.
300 milliseconds within its maximum damage range, which isn't terrible. It's just going to be beat out by many other guns in the game, most of which are going to be on this list and higher up on this list. So that's what keeps it pretty firmly in the number 8 spot for me here. Next up, moving on to number 7, we've got the
Number
AIM
7.
85. With this particular gun, it's once again insanely accurate, just like the Model L, very easy to control. You can easily challenge people at longer ranges. And while
Hey, and if you didn't, just go take a screenshot of the video right now, and that's all you pretty much got to do is just take a screenshot, and you got the class setups.
technically we actually have a slower time to kill potential compared to the Model L. It's got a couple extra things going for it here. Like, first off, headshots are more useful with this gun. You just need 2 headshots mixed in with body shots to reduce the number of shots to kill, and therefore significantly improve our time to kill potential. And then on top of that, it's also got a noticeably faster fire rate. So if you do manage to miss a shot with this compared to the Model L, it's not going to be nearly as devastating to that gunfight. You can typically get away with the odd missed shot here or there and still do just fine. And as a result, I just find it to be a little bit easier to use, a little bit more consistent than the Model L, and that's why I put it just one spot in front of the Model L. Honestly, outside of that though, I'd say they're pretty comparable guns. Next, let's move on to number 6 on my list, and this is the AS Val. Now, the AS Val has seen quite a few nerfs since the launch of the game. And I think this is yet another one of those situations where people really liked it at first, it got nerfed several times, and then they just dropped it thinking that it got nerfed into the ground, when that wasn't the case at all. This gun is still very solid if you use it right, if you treat it right.
You got to treat it like an SMG. It's a good AR, but you got to treat it like an SMG.
One of the keys with this is you should definitely be using the long barrel, since you get a massive 50% range boost with that, and it really needs as much range as it can get after the nerfs. But as long as you're using that attachment and you're playing reasonably aggressive with this and you're treating it sort of like an SMG assault rifle hybrid, you should be able to find plenty of success with it. I'm still having a blast using the AS Val and performing very well on average with it as well. So it by no means got nerfed into the ground. It's still a very solid option if you like playing a bit more aggressively with an assault rifle setup. And if you are one of those people that drop this after the nerfs, give it a shot again. I think you'll be very impressed. Then let's move on to number 5 on my list, and this is the Jackal PDW. I really like the Jackal. While it's nowhere near as good as it was back in the beta build of the game, it's still a very solid, versatile SMG, and that's really what I like most about it.
If you made it this far in the video, what do you think his number 1 build is going to be before he even types it? And what's your number 1 build? And if you got any class setups or any guns that you want me to try or get a video with, then let me know, man.
It's really the best in any particular area compared to the other SMGs. Up close, like half of the SMGs are beating you in the time to kill department. At a distance, there's some that are more accurate than the Jackal, but as an all-arounder, handling a wide variety of situations that you should be putting yourself in with an SMG, I just find the Jackal holds its own very well. It's super consistent, quite easy to use. That recoil is very easy to control. Obviously, you don't want to be taking extremely long-range gunfights with this, but I mean, that's the case with all of the SMGs. So yeah, that's the Jackal. That's my thoughts on it. Just a great, versatile SMG. Now, after that one, I've got the XM4. And similar to the Jackal, I consider the XM4 to just be an excellent all-arounder in this game. It's not necessarily the best in any particular area, but it is really good at...
And in the seasons, they're going to nerf the Jackal and the XM4, so might as well use them, but they're going to nerf them for sure.
Everything. And it's also just super easy to use. Very forgiving since it has quite a fast fire rate for an assault rifle.
You got time.
It's very accurate, easy to control, especially with the initial shots fired. It kicks basically just straight upwards. It doesn't start cutting with hard horizontal recoil until after about 10 to 15 rounds
fired.
Jump
shot's crazy.
So as long as they're not spraying like crazy, it's very controllable. And there's really not much else to say about it. I would say for a beginner player especially, this would be the gun that I recommend just because it's so versatile and easy for anybody to pick up and use. Now, in saying that, there is one assault rifle in my eyes that eclipses the XM4, and this is the Krig C. With this one, we have a very impressive time to kill potential for an assault rifle at 282 milliseconds, and that has an insane range to it as well at 42 meters. So as long as you're keeping your gunfights within those ranges.
And remember, even though he's playing multiplayer and it's obvious, he's only talking about multiplayer. Y'all Warzone kids. He's not talking to y'all. This is not for y'all.
Which honestly, on most maps at least, that's going to take care of most of the gunfights you find. You're going to be very competitive, beating out almost every assault rifle, and even beating out some SMGs with that time to kill. Top that off with the fact that this is still a very accurate gun, even after the nerfs. And I do consider this to be the best overall assault rifle in the game currently. It may not be as forgiving or easy to use as the XM4, but it's not that difficult to use, and if you can manage that little bit of extra horizontal recoil compared to the XM4, then the XM4 really can't touch you. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to number 2 on my list, and this is the C9. I absolutely love this SMG.
The C9 for number 2?
It's got a very solid time to kill up close at 246 milliseconds, while also maintaining a solid time to kill potential even in its minimum damage range. It can hold its own.
I always love the MP5. The MP5 is always up there, but I wouldn't put the C9 number 2. Just me personally. I wouldn't put the C9 number 2.
Just fine as long as you're hitting your shots. As for recoil, it does have some zigzagginess to it. It can be a little bit difficult to get a handle on at really long range, but generally speaking, I'm not taking those gunfights unless I feel extra confident that I can win it. And instead, I'm using this to be as aggressive as possible, keep myself in close quarters engagements. Absolutely love the iron sights on it as well. I know that's not a major factor when it comes to the power of a gun.
It doesn't have no LMGs on this list.
Just the general feel of the gun goes. And with all of that combined, this is absolutely one of my go-tos. If I end up in a match where I'm struggling and I really need to make a comeback,
I'm pulling out a sniper. If I'm struggling and I really need to make a comeback, your boy, the myth, the legend, the man with 3,000 hands, aka Sniper Boy 3000, is coming out to play. That's what I'm doing.
The C9 is often the gun I will go to. In saying that, though, there is one gun that I slightly prefer over the C9. Honestly, it's a pretty close race here for the top 2, but this is the KSV. With this gun, the reason I put it slightly above the
SMGs,
C9 is your time to kill potential
the dolphin dive is
I
see you TheXclusiveAce with the dolphin dive right there,
full auto
bro.
gun in the game. The only other gun that kind of competes is the Compact 92, but that is limited in a lot of ways. Whereas the KSV is also quite easy to control with that recoil.
You gotta snap to those heads,
basically
though.
Straight upwards with very little horizontal recoil, so super easy to manage. It once again has solid iron sights. It handles super well as well. I don't know what it is, but diving and sliding with this just seems to work better than many of the other guns in the game, at least in my hands. And there's just something about it. This is one of those things where I can't really necessarily quantify every reason that I love it so much. I just find that when this is in my hands and I'm treating it right and keeping myself in close quarters engagements, I just often feel like I can't be touched, and that's a really nice feeling to have. In saying that, it's not going to be as versatile as the C9 at longer ranges. If you're trying to stretch beyond the typical SMG ranges, the KSV does drop off a cliff pretty heavily here in its performance, but that's something where you just simply have to know the gun, know its limitations, and ensure that you're not challenging people too far away. And with that, that's finally going to wrap it up for my list of the top 10 guns and my preferred setups currently in Black Ops 6. I know it was primarily assault rifles and SMGs, but if I'm being honest with a top 10 list, of course it's going to consist of assault rifles and SMGs.
Not with my list, because I'm Sniper Boy 3000. So
more often than
even
not,
though people don't like snipers,
going to be the more versatile guns that excel in the widest variety of situations. Now, of course,
and the best sniper is the new one that they just released is the Barrett 50 cal. I don't know the exact name right now, but it is the Barrett 50 cal.
This is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, how do you guys feel about my list? And second, like I asked at the beginning, are there any guns that you expected to be on this list or you would put on your top 10 list that weren't on my list today? If you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already.
Out of here.
I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yo, Queen on this one,